What is up, everybody? We are back here at King Film Sports for another conference tournament prediction in college basketball. And here we have one of the best conferences in the nation. We have the Big 12. Very condensed bracket because we only have 10 teams in the field. And you could make an argument that 7 of these teams could actually win the tournament itself and could make possibly Sweet 16 or even Final Four appearances. I mean, this is how good this conference is. Very deep. And we're going to start it off here with the left side of the bracket. AJ, what do you have?
So I'm going to have TCU beating K-State. TCU's only won one of their last 10 or so games, and K-State has won 3 of their last 4, including a win over TCU. But I just feel like TCU is the better team here for some reason, even though K-State is hot. I can't really explain it through these stats, but I think that TCU will end up getting it done. It's a conference tournament, so we'll see what happens there. And then going on to their matchup against Baylor, I think that Baylor will take this one easily, whoever it is, TCU or K-State. They've got MaCio Teague, they've got Jared Butler, they've got Vitale, and I think that they are starting to get to their shape that they were before the COVID pause, if not better. That Oklahoma State win looks great by 11. Texas Tech just got blown out by them, never really had a chance. The only game that was really close, besides, of course, the Kansas one that they lost, was West Virginia. So they've been showing improvement every time. This could be a 25 to 30-point game here. Then we've got a blockbuster first-round game between West Virginia and Oklahoma State. And honestly, I'm going to have West Virginia winning, but I'm not very sure about that prediction right now, to be quite frank. Out of their last half dozen games, West Virginia only really has one good win against Texas on the road, but it was by 2. They played TCU twice and Kansas State once in that. Obviously, they lost to Baylor. And that Baylor loss and the fact that they played Oklahoma State so close, even though both of those games were at home, makes me think that they could get revenge on an Oklahoma State team that did not have Likely or Cunningham. So a team doesn't really get hotter than an Oklahoma State team that has now won their last half dozen games, besides, of course, the 10-point drubbing by Baylor. But give me West Virginia to face Baylor and then lose to Baylor for the reasons I mentioned. They already lost when Baylor was kind of down and out, and then Baylor's only gotten better since then, so I think Baylor's going to string it together and get themselves a spot in the final. Ryan, how about you?
In my first matchup, we have TCU and Kansas State. These are not the top-tier teams in the Big 12 Conference, but give me TCU here. I think they've been the better team for the entire year. I know Kansas State a couple weeks ago pulled off the upset against an Oklahoma team, but Oklahoma has been down as of late, so give me TCU here. I think they're just the more battle-tested, better and more consistent team over the long haul than Kansas State, although I think this one could honestly go either way. Then we have Baylor and TCU, and I think Baylor gets the best draw here as the 1 seed because they don't have to have as much of a tester in the quarterfinal round, although this is the Big 12 tournament, and it seems to always get crazy here. But still, give me the Baylor Bears here. I think this is just destined to have been their season, and they're just not going to lose to TCU at this point. They had a terrible performance a little over a week ago against Iowa State, but they've gotten it together as conveyed by their great wins against Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia over this past week. So give me them there. Then we have a great quarterfinal in West Virginia and Oklahoma State. And I know Oklahoma State has been inconsistent up and down. I expect them to have all their guys in this matchup. And give me the Oklahoma State Cowboys to pull off this upset, although this is really just a 50-50 game. But Oklahoma State, yes, here in this one, I think Cunningham is going to have a great Big 12 tournament, and I think they will prevail here in a very close game against the Mountaineers. Then in the semifinal round, I know these teams just played, Baylor and Oklahoma State, but I'm going to have the opposite result. I'm going to have the Pokes pulling off the upset and getting to the final here. This is March. You don't really have to have reasoning, but if there's any, I think Cunningham went out in that game, injured his ankle, and I think he's going to be back here, and I think Oklahoma State, with their most recent performance, they have learned how to play basketball the team way, and they are very good in overtime games and, frankly, just close games that are fought out within the last minute. I think they're 5-0 in overtime games, and I think this one might go to overtime. Give me the Pokes there to win that one. AJ, what do you have on the right side?
On the right side, we've got a first-round match of 7 Oklahoma against 10 Iowa State. Do you guys remember when Oklahoma was one of the top 10 teams in the nation after beating top 10 Kansas, Texas, and Alabama? Yeah, so do I, but we're not in those times right now. Including 2 wins over ISU, their last 7 games have been pretty bad. They've lost 4 straight, including, of course, both to Oklahoma State, and then, of course, that Kansas State loss that Ryan talked about, finishing their season dismally with a loss against Texas. But I am going to have them beating Iowa State. Iowa State does not have a conference win. They only have 2 wins as a whole, so I don't really think Iowa State's even going to have a chance in this matchup. Oklahoma would like to have a slightly better seed in March Madness, and Iowa State knows that even if they get this upset, they're still going to have to run the gauntlet in a stacked conference. Then, against Kansas, Oklahoma is going to have trouble. Even though they've got Manick and Reeves, I just think that Kansas will win this matchup. But Kansas didn't do anything to sell their case either when they played UTEP very close. In fact, they probably should have lost that game. They did beat Baylor, but Baylor was down and out. I really don't know what to think of both of these teams, but I'm going to have Kansas winning because before their loss to Texas, Kansas was a pretty hot team, even though they'd won 3 straight to ISU and Kansas State, and then finally they beat Texas Tech. So I'm going to have Kansas advance to the semifinal, and they will play Texas Tech. Yes, Texas versus Texas Tech. Pretty much a rivalry game here. I think it'll be close, as always. A lot of these Big 12 games are. Obviously, Texas Tech just won, but it was at home against Texas. I don't know what to think now. Texas has rounded out their season beating ISU, Oklahoma, and TCU. I don't know what kind of an Oklahoma team that was. Texas Tech followed by winning 3 of their last 4, but they lost to Baylor, unfortunately, today for them. So I see them playing Kansas, and I see Kansas going to the final. Ryan, what do you have on your right side?
In my right side, first game here, we have Oklahoma and Iowa State, and I was really considering taking Iowa State here. They are perennially a great team in the Big 12 tournament. They've won 4 of the last 6 contests, Big 12 championships, that is. So they are a great team when it comes down to this bracket because they are not often actually the best team in the regular season. But this year, obviously 0-18 in conference, so I don't think they're quite going to take down a Sooner team who is going to be a great seed in the NCAA tournament. Then we have Kansas versus Oklahoma, and Kansas better not think they're playing against a terrible team in Oklahoma. Even though they have lost a lot of their last games, they have been really close. Oklahoma lost 2 heartbreakers to Oklahoma State, which I thought they could have easily won either of those. And then they also recently lost to Texas in a very close game as well. I think Reeves and Manick are going to have a great game here, and they are going to push Kansas to the brink, but I think Kansas is just a very good team at this point. They've really progressed in the last 2 weeks of the season, and I just was propelled by that performance at home against the Baylor Bears last Saturday. So I think Kansas is going to be a great team in this Big 12 tournament, and I think they're going to get it done against Oklahoma in a very close game. Then we have Texas and Texas Tech, and this one is just going to be a shootout. I don't really know who's going to win here between Texas Tech and Texas, but give me Texas Tech here. They always manage to get themselves in very close games, and so does Texas. But give me Mac McClung and the Texas Tech team that ran the table in the NCAA tournament, getting to the championship in 2019. I think their coach, Chris Beard, is going to be very good in this game. High-level situation. So give me Texas Tech in a game that could go either way here in a rivalry against Texas. Then we have Kansas and Texas Tech in the semifinal. where I'm going to have Kansas win there. I just think they're the much superior team at this point in the season to Texas Tech. They just have so many weapons on the offensive end, and I think they're finally getting it to go their way on defense, playing great team basketball. And if Kansas really can get ahead on you, it's a scary sight because they will probably not relinquish the lead to you. So give me Kansas there to set up a Kansas-Oklahoma State final. AJ, in your final, who do you have?
As I mentioned earlier, I don't know what Kansas team we're going to get here. They do have Agbaji and they've got Braun, but I'm really not sure. I said chaos could ensue on the right side of the bracket, but I am going to have Baylor bringing order to the Big 12 and winning the tournament, unifying the championships, so to speak, and winning this tournament handily in the finals, whoever they play on the right side. Ryan, who do you have in your 2-5 matchup?
In my 2-5 matchup, if this actually happens, I would not want to pick against Oklahoma State. They just be on such a run and have so much talent on that team if they put it all together. But give me Kansas, the number 2 seed. I think they are just a very consistent team. Bill Self really wants another Big 12 championship. Kansas doesn't often perform as well in the regular season as they do in the Big 12 title game. And in a tumultuous season in which Baylor really has come out to play and dominated the Big 12 regular season, I think Bill Self will really want this one against the Oklahoma State team that is still very volatile. And I think that if Kansas gets up in this one, it could be a rout in the final game. But no doubt it's going to be an entertaining tournament. I have Kansas. AJ has Baylor. Comment your predictions down below. We would like to know, are there any surprise teams, any big upsets, any gargantuan runs that a sleeper goes on in this tournament? Comment down below. We would like to know, and we will see you in the next one.